I get to see a lot of you, every single day at all our big events. And so tonight, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what admissions does. I'm not going to talk about kind of the role of an ambassador. You'll hear from me next fall about that. But just kind of about what we do in admissions and what our role is, and then where we get students and kind of where you guys came from. So a lot of that kind of basic information. So starting off.
Here, wait.
There we go. So the admissions office. What we do, we work to get you guys here, the new yous here. Every year we work to recruit students. So we go all over the state, we go all over the country, and I'll explain that. But the goals that we have in our office, so in our kind of mission statement, is we want to maintain quality. So we want to bring students here, but we don't want to just lower the admissions requirements and say anyone with if you have 16, you can come, something like that. We want to maintain the quality of the university, and I'll get into that a little bit. But I'm going to get to know you guys in just a second. How many of you are freshmen?
Got 15 of them.
Oh, my, that is more than I expected. Excellent. How many sophomores? Okay, juniors? Seniors? Any of you seniors? But, all right, so you freshmen, you guys are part of the brightest class in the history of the zoo as far as overall test scores go, things of that nature. That's something where we, take a lot of pride in maintaining quality, not just maintaining, but increasing the quality of the students we get here. Enhanced diversity. You guys are part of one of the most diverse freshman classes that we've ever had. So that's something we want to continue. So we have different efforts in the Office of Admissions of where we look for students, how we recruit students, who we have talking to students, where we're going, all those types of things, but to enhance diversity so that when students come to visit here, they see students that look like them, and you can see the zoo is a place where I would feel comfortable. Enhance the flagship status of the university. We are I'm not going to say we're the best university in the state. There are plenty, Washington University is a fantastic university, obviously, but we're the flagship for the state. We're the public university for the state. We're kind of the face of that. We want to maintain that status, enhance that, increase market dominance over Missouri. That's something that's been there for a long time. That's something that's changed over the past 7-8 years. It's really increased. We look at when students send us test scores, where else are they sending them? And so, for a long time, it was also Truman State and Missouri State and SEMO, places like that. Now it's a lot more Illinois, Georgia, Tennessee, universities like that, and that's something that we want to continue to have that kind of different peer group association, not just in Missouri, but nationally, which goes into that last point, the national awareness. And that's something that has changed dramatically over the past 10 years. When I was a freshman in 2004, I graduated from the zoo in 2008, but in 2004, if I met someone from out of state, it's like, oh, you're from Nebraska? Are you a journalism major? Yeah. And that's changed a lot since then. People know about the zoo, one, because we're doing a lot more marketing out of state, but then also because, sports helps, but just we have a lot more regionals, which I'll get into in a second. So this is where we do a lot of our work. So obviously our primary audience is always going to be Missouri students, but how many of you are from Illinois? Yeah, that's pretty good for a group that's getting chosen to represent, as many areas as possible. A lot of you are from Illinois because that is a huge market for us outside of Missouri. Specifically, if you ever talk to Chuck, who is the director, the state of Chicago is vitally important for us and where we get students. So also Kansas, Texas, but then we have reps that go to Minneapolis, Denver, Atlanta, LA, San Diego, Memphis, Nashville, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So those are all our primary and secondary markets, where we're going, where we're sending all our materials, the mailings that you guys get, the road pieces, the view books, things like that. And then we also want to target minority students, high ability students, because those are those indicators that we're looking to make the zoo a better campus, to increase the level of education that you guys are going to get outside of the classroom, because I know plenty of you have learned from the people down the hall or in the classes you have just as much as you have from your professors. So then we also want to work with people who influence students. Who do you think that would be in high school as far as college decisions? I'm going to start making you guys talk more, otherwise this is going to get really boring for you. Yeah, who helps students make decisions on where they want to go to college? When someone says, I have no idea, about college, who are they going to go talk to? Parents and counselors, absolutely. So those are another target audience. You don't think about it as much, but we have fly-ins, we have bus-ins for counselors every single year. We utilize you guys to come in and talk to them. You're going to be talking with a lot of parents and counselors as well. So that's part of our target audience because it gets students here to Mizzou. When we're going into a new area, like this year's our first year in Southern California, we do a lot of work with counselors. So that they get to know about the university. Last year we flew in a bunch of counselors from Georgia, from Atlanta specifically, and now they're like, man, I didn't even know Mizzou really existed, but you can bet that I'm going to be telling my students about it because it's a fantastic place. So they're another one of our audiences. So how admissions is set up, this is something like you guys don't need to memorize. You're never going to talk about this on a tour. It's just kind of good for you to know. I get to work with a lot of you through outreach and UA, things like that, but Chuck May is our director. He's in charge of all of the admissions. And then there are 3 assistant directors. John's an associate, but it's kind of 3 different areas within admissions. So we have what I'm in charge of, recruiting. That's why I see you guys so much. It's because I'm in charge of all the reps and getting people here to Mizzou. John's in charge of the processing. So when someone applies, he's in charge of all the evaluators, processing those applications, getting people admitted, contacting when you're working with them to get them communication, things like that. And then Mary Ann, she is in charge of communications. So every single email, mailing, phone call, all of those things that you guys got from Mizzou while you were making that decision, that went through Mary Ann. She manages that, so it's a big side, especially since we're switching our CRM, which is our server that kind of manages our prospective students. We're switching over. She's in charge of all that. So those are the 3 different areas. You guys are going to work pretty much extensively with the recruitment side, so that's me, which is why I'm here. We also have international admissions. John Wilkerson is the director of that, and Ryan Griffin is assistant. I actually should have had Hannah intern. She is also an assistant for international as well. That's something that Mizzou is kind of at the forefront of as far as other schools in the nation looking internationally and not just like looking at China, but like we're getting real heavy into kind of the non-Asian markets would be Brazil, Colombia, the Caribbean, a few places in Europe. We're doing a lot of recruitment there. So that's kind of how admissions is set up. We work a lot with students, and this is what I'll talk to you about in fall when we do our training, but students, to me especially, are one of the key parts of the recruitment cycle, because no matter, even if I graduated, a year ago, and I'm a rep, and we have some reps that graduated a year ago, if I'm talking to a student parent, I have that name tag, I'm being paid, I'm kind of, to them, a salesman. But when you guys talk to them, and when current students talk to them, that means so much more because you're sharing those current experiences. So we have a few ways that we have touch points with students. So United Ambassadors, that's our minority recruitment team. They help specialize in recruiting underrepresented minorities on campus. That would be African American, Hispanic, Native American, and Pacific Islander. Outreach is just, in general, a group we use to recruit. It's kind of supposed to be a reflection of the university itself. Admissions liaisons, they're working right now across the street in Ellis Library in our office. We pay them from January to May to call every single admitted student. Last year, they made, I think it was over 23,000 phone calls to students talking to them. So we use them. And then tour team, you guys. Your bosses or your leadership team, or Leanne, you go through student affairs, but you're a vital part of what we do in admissions because you are with students the longest amount of their visit, which I'll talk about here in a second. So the way we recruit, direct mail, that's the broadest. We're going to buy names from ACT, SAT. People send us names. We send out the view book, the road book. We have a sophomore search, things like that. Travel, I'll talk about this in a second, but our reps going all over the state, all over the country. The campus visit, the most important part of the whole process, because how many of you kind of decided you were going to come to Mizzou on your visit, or after your visit, you're like, that was the deciding factor? That's at least half of you that I can see. And how many of those are from out of state? I think that's pretty much all of you. So you can see how important that campus visit is. And so we're trying to incorporate that more into the people that can't get to campus office often, but that's for another time. Events on and off, I'll talk about that. But we're getting ready to start our spring travel, which is incredibly different than our fall travel. This weekend we have reps going to Minnesota. The weekend after that it's Atlanta, and then Denver, and then Memphis, and then Chicago, and Dallas, and Houston. You know, we do a lot of events for admitted seniors in the spring. But telecounseling, we heard about that. We have outreach, we have UA, we have the liaisons calling, and then counselor relations, that's the bringing the counselors here. We also do luncheons every fall in all those different markets that I mentioned earlier. We have a luncheon where we invite counselors to come and learn about updates, learn about new things every single year as well. So this is kind of how the state is broken up as far as regions. So you can see it's kind of the corners, the middle, the cities, and then we have an urban St. Louis and Kansas City that is kind of run by our diversity coordinator. These are all our different reps. You will get to see them. They are super nice. They're super great. All of our reps are Mizzou grads, except one, but it's kind of a different story. But Caleb, he graduated in 2012, and he does, what does he do? He does Northwest Missouri for us. Carter is in Southeast. Brittany's in Southwest. Patrick's here kind of in the middle. Former tour guide, yes. Sydney is also Central. Kylie is Northeast and Central Illinois. Ashley's our events coordinator. You will get to see her plenty because all the Black and Gold Days we do, the Meet Mizzou Days, things that you guys do, she runs those. So you will, don't make her mad. It makes my life bad. If she's mad, don't make her mad. Lauren does all the group visits, so you'll get to know her. Catherine actually lives here in town and does Memphis, Nashville, Atlanta. She's in Memphis right now, getting snowed on and not happy about it. And then Michael does Kansas City for us right now. So they're all here in Columbia. Then we have regionals. So we have Allie, and you don't see their pictures, lives in Denver, travels Denver and Minneapolis. Aaron lives in Houston, does Houston and Southern California. Brandon's in Dallas, so Michael's kind of our KC. Tim is in St. Louis. We have two in Chicago, which would be George and Juwan. So there's Tim, George, Allie, Aaron. Aaron's the only one that didn't graduate from Mizzou, but he's worked here for like 20 years. He's pretty much black and gold through and through. Juwan is South Chicago, Brandon in Dallas. So you'll get to see them occasionally. How many of you know them based on your recruiting? Because all of them have been there long enough that if you came from those places, they would have been your rep. Anyone? All right. Cool. Where are you from?
Chicago.
Chicago, Georgia, Juwan?
Juwan.
Juwan?
Georgia.
So we have our Chicago people. Yeah, excellent. Would you like to chime in? Okay. So this is what reps do. This is a typical fall travel people well, for everyone in the fall, and pretty typical for regional reps. So like Tim in St. Louis, Allie out in Denver. This is a pretty typical schedule. We do visits. We try to do at least 3 a day, and that's going to every single high school in the area, visiting with them. And then a lot of times there are college fairs or college planning workshops, which is something that we do in-state that reps have at night. So they're going all these places. And then we have the Meet Mizzou Days on Saturday. Fridays you see are blank because they're our biggest visit days. That's why we need so many of you guys. It's because we have so many people that want to visit. And we try to keep Fridays blank because obviously it's a lot easier for someone coming from Chicago or Atlanta to travel on a Sunday and not have to miss that day of school or take that day off of work, things like that. So this is kind of how it's set up. In the state, in a fall, this is kind of what travel looks like. And, it looks crazy, but it can be that annoying. But, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of putting in hours and miles on the road to visit all these tiny places that you guys have never heard of. How many of you are from a tiny place that I've never heard of? All right, excellent. Where are you from?
Gower.
Where?
Gower.
Yep, never heard of it.
Wilton.
Wales? Nope, never heard of it. Rogersville, Arkansas.
Nope.
Nice. Yeah, so we go to all these places because we want to be represented, and we do that. We're doing that in Chicago, Dallas. They're obviously not as small as schools in those big cities, but we're trying to get as many touch points with students as we can. So that's what all the reps do in the office. Any questions about that? You're never really going to be asked about that on tour, but it's good for you guys to know what we're doing, just like it's good for us to know what you're doing, because we really do work a lot together as a team. So any questions about that? Yes?
If you're an out-of-state student, not from any of those states, any of those cities that you just talked about, what happens then?
So what do you mean, what
For
happens?
example, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Who would we talk to, I guess?
Honestly, so going back to, well, I won't go back to the reps, but like Seth Carter in Southeast Missouri, if you go onto the website and you're like, I want to talk to a rep, and who do I contact? I'm from Alabama. Carter's going to pop up because she's Southeast Missouri, but she answers all the emails for Southeast United States outside of all those states that Catherine travels to. Caleb in Northwest. If you're from Washington, you're from Seattle, and you click on the website, you're going to go to him. Now, students from Alabama, from Seattle, from those places, they're not getting mail from us. We're not traveling to those cities. So that's where, mostly if students from those places are coming here, it's because, I'm guessing, did you know someone that went to Mizzou?
My dad was from
Your dad went to Mizzou. So word of mouth, whether it's someone's, dad, cousin, brother, friend, neighbor, whatever, they usually have some sort of connection to Mizzou. It might be that they were born in St. Louis and moved to, Bismarck, North Dakota when they were 4, but they still have this connection to Missouri. Outside of those markets where we're sending things, students usually have, well, one, journalism, students that do research, because that is if we're going to an area we've never been to, journalism is the only reason people have heard of us. Journalism and sports are the only reason people have heard of us, so that's a big thing. So it all comes down to budget. We would love to blanket the nation with sophomore search pieces and junior search pieces. Those things are expensive. We spend a lot of money on mailing and emailing and things like that, and just getting names from those areas. So part of my job is I buy names from ACT and SAT, and we have targeted things for states and ranges to get names in our system so that we have students that we think will come to Mizzou. We can target them with our mailings and our marketing. So, good question. Any other questions about the admissions process? Okay, you guys are yawning, so I'll have to kind of pick it up a little bit. So these are some things that you guys, I was asked to just kind of talk about. I'm going to go through these super fast. You do not need to memorize these, but you will probably get some questions. And also you all have to sit in on 3 admissions presentations. You're going to hear this information every single time. So admissions requirements, we have published admissions requirements. You can find them on the web, you can find them on any of our information. But basically 24 or higher on the ACT, 1090 on the SAT, and you meet all of our high school classes, which are over here, you're going to be admitted. But if you're under, then it's going to be based on your class rank or core GPA. So that's not the GPA on the top of someone's transcript, but those are questions that if you get that, you should direct them, parents and students, back to admissions to get those answers, because you guys don't need to memorize that. We have reps that get paid to answer those questions. So admissions requirements, they're out there, just tell people they're published, talk to a rep, things like that. I was asked to go through our scholarships real fast. All the scholarships through the admissions office are, well, not all of them, but the ones I'm going to mention are automatic, meaning if students meet the requirements, they get them. There's a good chance a lot of you have one of these scholarships. The first ones are going to be for Missouri students, so that's the big thing. There are resident scholarships and there are non-resident scholarships. They are different things. But Mizzou Scholars is the most competitive for in-state. This isn't an automatic thing, but they need to have at least a 33. We actually just went through and awarded these last week with offers. But we got about 35 $10,000 awards. Chancellor's Award, brand new last year. That's why you guys the freshmen are part of the brightest class, is because we upped our scholarships. That helps a lot in recruiting, believe it or not, because people like getting money. But 31, top 10%, $6,500. If they don't have a class rank, it's core GPA, tell them to talk to a rep. Excellence and curators have their own requirements as well, but they're automatic, and all of those you can have for 4 years. Then there's Bright Flight, which is set by the state, not Mizzou. It's automatic as well, but you can have that for 5 years. You can stack it on any other scholarships. Then you have your out-of-state scholarships. same requirements, just different amounts of money, because those of you out of state are paying a lot more to go here than the in-state, so the numbers are a little bit higher. But again, if they don't have class rank, it's going to be core GPA, tell them to talk to admissions. Heritage scholarship, like someone who has a dad that went to Mizzou, so it's parent, step-parent, or adoptive parent. So we would love to add grandparent or uncle or something like that in there, but we don't have that ability. But that is someone who has a 27, top 25%, they can pay in-state tuition as an out-of-state student. And then departmental scholarships, you guys know about this. You guys, I hope all filled out your application just a couple weeks ago, got that in. But that's something that students apply for every year. And that's the big thing we might talk about the most, is the fact that you might not get an automatic scholarship. You might not get a departmental scholarship your freshman year. Both of those applied to me. But I got a $1,000 scholarship from the College of Education my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I came in undecided, but became education. So this is something that, you know, you can get more scholarships once you're here. It's not just set in stone when you're a freshman. Any questions about scholarships? Any questions about residency? That's another big draw. Yeah.
Are you changing the requirements?
No, and if you hear people that say, because I've had a lot of parents over the past few weeks, like, I heard a rumor that it's going to change. Residency is not changing. It is a huge draw for us. That is why we have so many people from Chicago and Minneapolis, is because of our residency. So residency is not changing. The chancellor knows that it's a huge draw for us. He doesn't plan on changing it. It is not even a Mizzou rule. It is a state rule. So, yeah, I have heard nothing about residency changing. We would not appreciate if residency changed because of that. So if you do get that on tour, that is something you can say.
Could you just explain residency, because I feel like some of them don't know what residency is.
Yep. First thing, I would prefer if you guys didn't try to explain the steps for residency on tour, have them talk to a rep. But basically, you can become, if you're an out-of-state student, if you have the Mark Twain, or if you have no scholarship, you can pay in-state tuition starting sophomore year if you go through our residency process, which is one of the easiest in the country. It's living here for the full year, but really you only have to prove residence over the summer after, after your freshman year. Make $2,000, get a driver's license, voter ID. That's the basic gist of how you get residency. So I'm fine with you guys saying those things, but it gets really, people are like, well, I have a lake house in Missouri and I live in Illinois and stuff. Well, that gets complicated. You want them to talk to us. But it's a huge draw for out-of-state students to come here because you can knock, it's a $14,000 difference. So you can knock $14,000 off your bill sophomore, junior, and senior year. That's a lot of money, which is why residency is important for us. Yes?
Does gaining residency negate scholarships?
Gaining residency does negate scholarships. So if you have let's just go back to this. If you have the $7,000 Mark Twain scholarship, you have that freshman year, so that's taking $7,000 off the $14,000 difference. If you get residency, you do lose the $7,000. You're not going to jump onto the Excellence Award or anything like that. So all of these scholarships I mentioned were for incoming freshmen. So you lose that opportunity to get those scholarships. But even if you have the highest out-of-state scholarship, you're saving $4,000 a year. So you do lose the scholarship, but you're still saving money.
It's more out of personal curiosity, but what's the part about being claimed on your parents' taxes? What's that whole thing?
So again, just steer them towards admissions, but you can't be claimed as a dependent the year you file for residency. So it's 1 year you can't be claimed, but you can jump back on after that. Once you have residency, once a student has residency, you never lose it. We're never going to check again. We don't care. So you can be claimed. You can become a Missouri resident, go back, become an Illinois resident next year. Whatever their requirements are, if you can do that, you can go get another Illinois driver's license, something like that. We'll never know. So, yeah, good question. Any other questions about money? Okay, then right now, the other things that you guys are going to be talking about, you'll get questions about, there's 2 slides for important dates, because especially right now, you guys are going to be talking to 2 different groups. One, Juniors starting the process. Sophomores, juniors who are visiting campus. Right now it's probably 10 to 15% of our visitors are juniors. By the end of the semester, it'll be 90 to 95% are juniors. They're at a different place than the seniors, and so I'll get to that next. So important things to remember is we want students to apply as early as possible. One of the big pushes you can do is housing. Who can explain to me how when you apply ties to housing? I'm gonna go, it's the three people that have asked questions. I'm gonna go back to back. Sorry, what is your name?
My name's Connor.
Connor, nice to meet you. My cousin's name is Connor, my name is Patrick. Go for it.
Patrick's my middle name.
Yeah, this is even better.
Anyway, the earlier you apply, the earlier you get set up to do ROAR, which means that you can get better housing.
That is correct. Your ROAR date is established by when you apply. So we have those dates for seniors, but juniors that you're going to be talking to, it's going to depend on when everyone applies next August. So that's something to be talking about. But then really, people have time off. There isn't a big rush from when they apply. They're doing it early until, kind of those next things. But the departmental scholarships, we're going to try and get people to do that. Last year was the highest percentage of students, freshmen, who filled out departmental scholarships applications. Anyone want to guess what percentage of incoming freshmen filled out the application? No one wants to guess? 50. 50% of incoming freshmen filled out that application. So that's something that you guys can definitely mention. Honestly, you don't have to push it that much because there aren't nearly as many departmental scholarships for freshmen as there are juniors and seniors. That's something to keep in mind as well. It depends on the department. If it's nursing, they're exclusively juniors and seniors. If it's engineering and business, no, they have a little bit more, they have larger endowments. Agriculture, Kaffner has one of the biggest endowments on campus, and they have not as many students. So that's for reps. Don't worry about that stuff. But the FAFSA, those are things that you're going to be hearing about. How many of you have turned in your FAFSA for next year?
Good job.
Yeah, it's next week. It's next week that it's due, so get that in. And then, we'll be talking about financial aid, things like that, but that's all stuff that we'll deal with in admissions. Yes, sir. What's your name?
It's Kyle.
Kyle, Connor, Kyle.
So if someone were to ask us a question about the FAFSA, is there a quick way you can explain to us what would be the most beneficial for them and also concise for us to remember in a nutshell? Someone's like, what's this FAFSA about?
So we touch on it a little bit in the presentation, so hopefully you won't get that question, but it's the free application for federal student aid, and it's how you qualify for grants, scholarship, or grants and loans. So it's nothing merit-based, it's all need-based. Some people are like, well, I know I'm not going to qualify for anything. There are departmental scholarships that say, the requirement, might be a test score, it might be this, and it might also say demonstrate financial need. I've heard this from the mouth of the director of financial aid. If you have $1 of financial need, he considers that financial need. So even though you might have only $1 of need, but there's a scholarship that's $1,000 that one of the requirements is need, he can give you that $1,000 scholarship because you have that need. So we always just say, even if you don't think you're going to get anything, fill it out. It's not that hard, especially now. You can sign up and have it load all your tax information automatically. It takes a little bit of time, but just encourage you to fill it out because it's not going to hurt anything. But you'll definitely have families like, I don't want anyone tracking me. Well, it's a personal choice. But yeah, encourage them to do it. So this is what you're going to be dealing with right now for seniors. You freshmen, you guys were doing this last year. Right now, you kind of know the steps, but students have their NSRO. Who knows what NSRO stands for? Yes, what's your name?
Mike.
Mike.
It's New Student Registration and Orientation.
New Student Registration Orientation. That is absolutely right. You guys are going to be talking to transfer students. Anyone guess what theirs is called?
TSRO.
The TSRO, or TSRO. That is absolutely right. But basically, this gives them all their next steps for what they need to do to get to Mizzou. So this is going to be what seniors are asking about a lot more. So you're going to get questions about summer welcome, be able to explain what summer welcome is, why it's important. You're going to get questions about housing. When do you sign up for ROAR? And I'm not going in depth into this because I You guys have Res Life coming?
Yes,
So
we'll get all of that coming
I will
through
let
here.
them cover, the dates roar and things like that, but be able to explain how the process works and how you're not going to get your number one room choice. You're not gonna get a suite with 3 of your best friends from high school in North Hall. Not gonna happen. One of the great ways I kind of heard explained it by a rep just this past week over listening to one of their one-on-ones is, okay, have your priorities. Do you want to have a specific roommate? Do you want to be in a specific room? Do you want to be in a specific residence hall? Which one's most important? Because you can probably get one of those, you're not going to get all 3 of them, just because of the way the system works. So, but know how to explain how ROAR works, know what the ALEKS is. Who doesn't know what the ALEKS test is? All right, perfect. The best way to explain ALEKS is go to the Math Placement website. There's a 3-question quiz that tells students whether or not they need to take the ALEKS exam. So it's very simple, lets them know. If any student is in wrong major, engineering or business. Engineering or business, students are required to take it no matter what. So just kind of know that as well. But all other students have just to go to the website. Go to the website. Any questions about the kind of next steps for seniors that you're going to be getting questions about besides the specific, like what are the dates for ROAR? Because they'll come to them. All right, well, cool. Then, what time is it? How long do I have?
We have about like 5 more minutes.
Okay, well then this will go really fast. These are just some fun things to kind of where you guys came from. So enrollment. This year we had the 2nd largest freshman class of all time. So you freshmen were 2nd largest of all time. All of you were part of the top 10 because the last 10 years have been the 10 largest freshman classes. The undergraduate, first time we've ever been over 27,000. Total population on campus, first time we've ever been over 35,000. So these are things that we pump up to counselors, things like that, because we also talk about how it was the brightest class. So not only are we having more people come, we're having more bright students come. And the, I don't know if I have a slide on diversity in this interview, but over a quarter were in the top 10%, almost half of the students were in the top 20% of their high school class. Those are good numbers to know, and just be like, yeah, we're a great school here in Missouri. We're ADU, things like that. But that's stuff we talk about. And you guys don't need to stress about it as much. Retention rate. This was the highest freshman retention rate. I actually don't know if that's updated because I think it was 86.8. But it's with the highest retention rate it's ever been. Which for a school that is a public university, we have published admissions requirements. We don't cap enrollment, so anyone that meets the requirements that can come, that is an awesome retention rate. The graduation rate was the highest it's ever been in the history of Mizzou. We do 6-year, you'll get this question a lot. Why do you do 6-year? Because that's what almost everyone does. The 4-year graduation rate is about 40%. What I always go to in admissions is the average Mizzou student graduates in 4.2 years. And it's not because there was a lack of classes or things like that. It's just all the students and people changing majors and adding minors, things like that. That's what extends the college time. If you want to do a 120-hour degree and do it in 4 years, you're not going to have a problem doing that. But the freshman class, almost 40% are from out of state. 10 years ago, it was about 20% were from out of state. That's how much the national brand has increased, and because we have a lot more out-of-state recruiters. But yes, the diversity, so 8.5% of the freshman class was African American. 34% of those students came from Chicago. That's why Chicago is so important for us. 239 Hispanic freshmen, that's something the chancellor has asked us to increase as well. Yes, sir.
Back in the last slide, it's kind of a silly question, but can you define retention rate real quick?
Retention rate is people coming for freshman year and coming back sophomore year. Yep.
Along those lines, where's that stacked up?
It depends who you're comparing it to. If you're looking at AAU schools, it's going to be low. AAUs kind of like there's only 62 in the nation. We're one of the more public universities. Anyway, if you're looking at pure institutions of large state schools, it's very good. Yeah. Same with the graduation rate. So like our 4-year graduation rate is 40%. Alabama's is like 22. That's kind of something that you're looking at. That's why 4 years not that important. These are the largest feeder states. Missouri, obviously, 60%, but then Illinois by a large shot, Texas, Kansas, Minnesota, California. That's why we're recruiting those areas. To give you an example of why there's so many St. Louis students here, how many were from St. Louis? Yeah, still a pretty good amount. If you look back in 2008, 34% of campus was freshmen, was from St. Louis. Now it is only a quarter, so it's going from over a third to under a quarter. That is for two reasons. One, less students in St. Louis for us to recruit. Two, we're doing a lot more out-of-state recruitment. But you can see this includes all of Kansas City and the entire state of Kansas. So 5 years ago it was about 13%. Now we're at 12. Pretty standard. We're getting similar numbers. You can see we get very few people from Kansas. If they're in Johnson County, they're going to KU, K-State, other places. And then mid-Missouri, Boone County, Cole County, that's St. Louis, Columbia and Jeff City. You can see it's pretty consistent. These are the top 50 feeder schools. So of the freshman class last year, we got 159 students from Rockbridge. Go Bruins! But you can kind of see why there's so many St. Louis people on campus. Every single one of those red schools is from the St. Louis area. But some of the exciting things, this started, I think, 3 years ago. We had our first out-of-state school on our top 50 feeders. They were about right here 3 or 4 years ago. Now you can see Stevenson is up, almost near the top 10, and you can see a few other Illinois schools, creeping on there as well. So that's something that we're excited about. You probably won't ever see Colorado or Tennessee or Texas school on there, but actually I can guarantee unless something dramatically changes. That fonts is all wrong, but those these are our top majors: business, journalism, engineering. You guys will hear all about those programs. But whenever someone asks me what are Mizzou's top majors, I say business, journalism, engineering, undecided, and then a lot of the pre-med majors, a lot of the professional things. But then also, the size of a program isn't necessarily important. Anyone know where TAM was ranked last week? TAM, Textile Apparel Management.
Top 10.
Top 50 in the country, or not in the country, top 50 in the world. They were number 49. Top 20 in the country. It's a program that has very few students in it. It's one of the best. It is not a design program. It is a fashion business marketing program, but it's one of the exclusive in the country that focuses just on that. Something that people just don't know about. So just because a major isn't big doesn't mean it's not great. And this is what I'm going to sum up with. The campus visit is the single most important factor in a student's college decision. Why you guys are so important. You can see, look, 10 years ago, we had 18,000 people visit campus. Last year, we had almost 36,000 people visit campus. It's huge. People go a lot more places. They're checking them out. I know you guys are running low on time, but if you look at, this is a typical schedule. We're with them in admissions with a rep, but we're in a group like this. I'm talking like this as a rep to the students. Then they go with you guys for an hour and 15 minutes. You guys have those 8 to 10 people, and that's 3 to 4 students, and you're with them. When we do our surveys, we're like, who did your presentation? People usually put the tour guide's name. They're like, Steve was great. We don't have any reps named Steve. That's a tour guide. You guys are with them. You're going to be the face of the university for them more than a rep standing up trying to just give them those basic numbers that I just gave you. You're going to give those personal stories, and that's why you're important. We have different days. You guys will go to those. There's similar schedules. These guys will make sure that you get there and do that. But that's really all I have. What questions do you guys have about your role with admissions or admissions in general? Or anything else? Yes,
It's just a general question, but who goes on the college fairs?
The college fairs, reps, and then outreachers and UAs. So in-state, we utilize outreachers and UAs to go to the fairs with other reps if they're really big, so especially St. Louis and Kansas City. But it's the reps that are going to the college fairs.
Okay. Let's do one more question if we have them. No? Okay, if you guys think of any questions, email them to the internal, to me, and I will forward them on to Patrick, okay? Thank you.
Good job.